For the first three problems here with buying a car, there really is no right or wrong answer. You just pick the values. So pick the price, principal. Be careful with the rate as a decimal. You should be entering it as a decimal. So for example, if you pick 3%, that would be 0.03. And then pick any time frame to repay your loan in between 2 and 5 years. For number 4, it gives you the formula that you need to use to calculate the interest. It's the principal times the rate times the time. And those are the values you picked for problems 1, 2, and 3. So just put in those values, and that's how you calculate the interest for number 4. And for number 5, how much will you be repaying over the entire life of the loan? You have to pay back how much you borrowed, which is your answer from number 1, your principal, for problem 1, plus problem 4, the interest that you calculated. That's what you pay back. Your principal plus your interest is the total amount that you have to pay. So add those two answers together. You've already calculated them, number 1 plus number 4, and that's how you solve for number 5. Number 6 relies upon your previous answers. First, how many total months are you going to be paying? So whatever you chose for number 3 for how long your loan is, multiply that by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So I chose 5. 5 times 12 is 60. I'll have 60 total monthly payments. And then number 5, you calculated the total amount you have to repay. So just divide that answer from number 5 by your total number of months, and that gives you your monthly payment. For number 7, we introduced the idea of a down payment. That's money you pay up front to reduce the overall amount that you have to borrow. So it says we're paying 6% as a down payment. So use your value from question number 1, your principal, your price, and figure out what 6% of that price is. So 0.06 times your price from number 1. That's the amount you're going to pay up front, which means you subtract that from your value, and that's the new amount that you're going to have to borrow. So for the numbers I used, here would be my new value after I subtract away the down payment. Number 8 is saying that with our down payment, what's our new monthly payment going to be? In other words, it's asking us to repeat steps 4 through 6, but using our new value for P that we just calculated up here in question 7. So just like in step 4, we're going to have to calculate what the interest would be with our new value for P. So do P times R times T and get your new interest. Just like in step 5, we're going to have to take our principal plus our interest to get the total amount that we have to pay back. And just like in step 6, then, we take that total amount, divide it by how many months we'll be repaying the loan, and that gives us our monthly payment. For number 9, we start looking at leasing a car. And the first thing we want to do is find our new lower interest rate. And the only thing we need to do is subtract 3 from whatever we picked in step 2. So if you picked 5%, do 5 minus 3, and your new answer would be 2%. Now, if you picked anything 3.6% or less, when you subtract 3 from that, you're going to get 0.6 or less. And 0.6 is as small as we go. So if you picked anything 3.6% or less back in step 2, your new interest rate is 0.6. We can't go lower than that. As a decimal, that's 0.006. We slide the decimal 2 spots to the left. So don't confuse that. It's not 0.06 as a decimal, that's 6%. And it's not 0.6 as a decimal, that's 60%. So this is less than 1%. It's 0.6 of a percent. So as a decimal, it's 0.006. Number 10, you can't be wrong as long as you choose any number between 3 and 7 years. Number 11, you're just doing 50% of whatever you picked back in step 1 for the price of your car. So multiply by 0.50, that's 50%. Or another way to do that is to divide by 2 because 50% is half. So divide it in half and you'll get your new price, 50% of your original value. 12 and 13 are similar to the things we did with buying a car. We need to calculate the interest. So use your principal times your rate times your time. Those are all values we just picked. back in 9, 10, and 11. And then what is your total cost? And it tells you the formula, principal plus interest. So your principal from 11 plus your interest from 12, add those together to get your total cost. Number 14, our monthly payment, like we did earlier, based off of how long your lease is going to be, multiply that number of years times 12 months in a year. That gives you your total number of months, and divide the total that you have to repay by that many months to get how much you're paying per month. Again, that total you have to repay, we just calculated that in number 13. So the answer for number 13 divided by how many months you'll be repaying the lease. For number 15, just a little reflection on what you think the benefits and disadvantages are from either handing your keys in at the end of the lease and just walking away, finding a new car to drive, or you usually have the option to buy the car you've been leasing. So to keep making payments on it, but this time you're going to own it when the payments are done. So just do a little reflection on those two choices and the benefits and the pros and cons of each of those options. Number 16, we're going to look at what the cost would be if we move forward with purchasing the car. So we have to start thinking about how much interest we're going to have to pay on the loan to buy the car. So use the principal from step 11. That's how much the car is worth now. So that's how much we're going to have to borrow to pay for it. But use your rate from step 2 and your time from step 3, those that you picked at the very beginning of this worksheet, because we picked those for the buying option. And once again, we're looking at buying a vehicle. So with those values, plug them into the interest formula and get how much interest you will owe on this new loan. And then how much total we had to pay. It'll be your principal, which was from step 11, plus the interest you just calculated. Add those together to get the total you'll have to pay. And number 17, we're looking at the total that we paid at the end of the lease and then purchased the car. And it tells you exactly what 2 steps to look back at. Step 13 is how much we paid total throughout the lease process. And then step 16, the one we just did, is how much total we paid throughout the buying process. So add those 2 together and you get your total price that you have to pay to own this car. For number 18, wrapping everything up, it's would you consider leasing a car? And so this is kind of an opinion question. You can draw on some of your past experiences, or maybe someone you know who's done a lease, some of their experiences. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of buying versus leasing, but also try to tie in some things that we just looked at in this particular assignment. So look back at the numbers, the results, and compare what it was for buying to what it was for leasing. You can compare the cost. You can compare how much extra in interest you paid between the two. You can compare how long it is total time that you're making payments before you own the car. There's lots of things to compare. Use what we did in this document and also bring in your own outside experience.